Well, we've got an interesting new report about Doctor Strange 3 and what potential storyline could come to life in the upcoming sequel. Let's talk about the story, the source, and what I think is actually going on. Well, I think it's fair to say that Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness may have struggled to live up to some of the expectations of many fans. The rumor mill going into that film was absolutely unhinged, with expectations from fans completely off the chart. Now, that's not to say the movie didn't have a couple of challenges, but ultimately I think most of the problems with that film existed in the expectations that were coming from the audience. Now, the movie itself left us with a bit of a cliffhanger. We actually got to meet Charlize Theron's Clea character, who's a major character in Doctor Strange mythos, and they immediately set off on an adventure to deal with an incursion in another universe. Now, the MCU has still failed to define what goes on when incursions happen, but comic book fans know that these occur when two realities collide, which ultimately destroys them both. Now, Clea and Doctor Strange ran off to stop an incursion, but they really gave us no additional details on what's going on there, and it did seem like somewhat of a hastily put together post-credit scene to kind of close it out on a bit of a cliffhanger. Now, earlier today, we got a report from the Cosmic Circus, and like we always like to say, it's not from Marvel Studios or Kevin Feige. We're taking it with a grain of salt, and we're going in full skeptic mode. They do have a somewhat decent track history, and they're very accountable and specific with their scoops, so I kind of like to put them in a little bit of a different category than anonymous scoopers on various forms of social media. Now, I want to point out one downside to this whole story about Doctor Strange 3. We are in a strike, and the WGA, the Writers Guild, is part of that strike, meaning no development is actually going on. If they are working on the story, it would more or less be completely in violation of those contracts, and that also sets in fears of how they're developing it. Could this be with AI or some other subpar process that we really don't want part of the MCU? Just a little bit of a cautionary red flag to go with the whole breakdown of the story. Now, what they are saying is that the upcoming Doctor Strange 3 will be adapting elements of Marvel's Time Runs Out storyline, but this will obviously be somewhat of a departure from the original book. Now, the key thing with this is that it actually sets up Secret Wars, and I think is going to play big in the upcoming MCU and laying some of the groundwork for this big showdown. Now, according to the reports, the MCU threequel is expected to pick off right where Multiverse of Madness ended, and we'll see Doctor Strange enlisted by a group known as the Black Priests. Now, apparently, Clea is a member of this multiverse organization, and their headquarters will actually be, and I quote, in the nothing space of destroyed universes, which exists within the space of two dead universes caused by an incursion. Now, apparently from there, we'll learn that the multiverse is actually dying as a result of these incursions, which more than likely is being caused by Kang the Conqueror and his many variants. Now, the threequel won't put it all on Kang, because reportedly it will explore how Doctor Strange poses a wider threat to the multiverse and what can be done about it, something that was teased at the end of Multiverse of Madness. Now, the site does note that Doctor Strange 3 is expected to set the stage for Kang Dynasty. And if you know the comics, this makes a lot of sense because the Time Runs Out storyline ended when Earth 616, which is a classic Marvel universe, and Earth 1610, the Marvel Ultimate Universe, were moments from colliding. This is the moment that Doctor Doom would create the new Battle World reality, which we are hearing Marvel will set some of their films in the upcoming phases. Now, it sounds to me like several of these films, Deadpool 3, this movie, and maybe even the Marvels are all setting up quite a few pieces of this ultimate Secret Wars storyline, and I think this is something fans should be pretty happy to hear. Many people have talked about how disjoined a lot of Phase 4 and the beginning of Phase 5 have felt, and it sounds like to me, based on some of these new reports, that Marvel was indeed placing a lot of small pieces, only to bring them together a little later on. When you look back to Phase 1, this makes a lot of sense. We got all kinds of new introductions of things that we didn't hear about for several movies, but ultimately played very big in this showdown with Thanos. I think that's exactly what's going on with Doctor Strange 3 and Marvel's Phase 6 projects. So how all this comes together, we're going to have to wait and see, but Doctor Strange 3 is clearly going to play big in the future of Marvel's multiverse Secret War.